The iOS 12 developer preview got released recently and I got to test it on this iPhone 5S. Okay, it's a development preview and that means there are going to be a few bugs and glitches and it's not the finalized product, but I thought I'd give you a few reasons why you should download it on your device, as a lot of the publications and news articles are saying that this is meant to transform older devices. I thought a 5S, being the oldest one you can actually download this on, would be a good test of that. Hey guys, my name is Ryan Thomas with Failtech and this is iOS 12 development preview on the iPhone 5S. The iPhone 5S we're using to test all of this is a 16GB space grey unlocked variant that I got in the UK. It was initially on Vodafone, but we got it unlocked. And the testing I've done is pretty rudimentary, it's pretty standard, and it's going to give you a few numbers. Now I don't have the previous score, so I don't know how to compare it to those. However, I know a lot of you who will be watching this video will probably have an iPhone 5S with the older software on and are going to have your own testing there. So you can compare your numbers to mine and see if it's worth it or not. The first thing I measured was boot time. I did a few tests, but as you can see, I got one result here. Now I averaged this out at about 40 seconds, which is a pretty long time. However, remember that you're probably not going to be booting up your phone a lot because you have the lock button and most of the time it's going to be in standby and you'll charge it up during the night. So it's kind of a weird test and it doesn't really make much sense, but 40 seconds was the number to show here. In terms of real benchmarks, I used Antutu and got the score of 66216, which looking and comparing against Antutu's scores on their website shows to be about average for an iPhone 5S. So I really wouldn't say this is record numbers and it's definitely not improved, but it's a standard number and at least it hasn't gone down. So that's pretty good. And it's a development preview again, so numbers aren't going to be final. The next thing I did was to open up 3 applications and test to see how long it takes to open them up. So we did YouTube, we did Crossy Road, and we did Dune. Now I realized that 2 of these are games and I just thought it would be better to test some games as well because those are kind of harder to run and easier to push. So it's easier to find the flaws in the actual system. So I thought there would be good reasons to do that. And also I tried Leo's Fortune, but it hard crashed and just wouldn't work. So unfortunately there's no Leo's Fortune benchmark, but yeah. Then I did something that I don't usually do in terms of these benchmarks, and that is speed test. Now I connected it to my Wi-Fi and I have 2 different networks, an AC 5 GHz and then a 2.4 GHz network. And I connect all of the phones that I test to the 5 GHz network to give them the best kind of chance of getting a good score. Now my Galaxy Note 4 as reference, which is a pretty old device, got 300 megabit, which is pretty good, but it averages around 270 down and then 50 up on a 330 megabit connection there. So you can kind of tell in regards to the total connection speed on wired. Then if we use the iPhone 5S, I'm getting up to 100 megabits per second in the same location, connected to the same access point at the same range and distance and everything like that. And the upload was of course 50 because that doesn't tend to change on any of these devices. So a bit weird there. I don't see what I do on the phone that's really going to push that much downloading, and considering this is a 16GB model, again, doesn't make much sense to be downloading a lot that's really going to push past 100 megabits per second, but it is something to watch out for. In terms of battery life, I noticed a small difference in the standby time, actually a slightly better standby time than normal. However, the screen on time really didn't change at all, and I don't really know how to show you this in proof or in benchmarks, but from what I could tell, just the feeling of using the phone, the battery life was pretty much the same. Very, very small differences in the standby time and pretty much no difference in the regular screen on time. Of course, there are many other features with iOS 12. You've got group notifications for the first time in ages, and there are plenty of other software and bug fixes, and hopefully it's going to fix the train wreck that was iOS 11. I feel like this is going to be a good update. Most of them are optimizations and speed increases rather than brand new features, and of course we get that Animoji, the brand new emoji stuff, the Memoji, which is all kind of iPhone 10 and later, which is unfortunately the 5S doesn't get it, even though it uses the camera. It's confusing, but at the same time it's not something that I'm really worried about. For those of you who really love Memoji, then I apologize, but for the iPhone 5S, I really couldn't care less. The experience overview is that it's pretty good. It's really not as buggy as it used to be. I noticed a lot of the text where it used to kind of overlay and kind of cut out of the text box is now where it's meant to be honest. So it's almost like a fix to iOS 11 as opposed to an actual improvement of features. And I like the way that this phone's behaving with it. Considering it's such an old phone and a small phone and a cheap phone, It behaves really well, and considering that you use most of these devices for streaming media as opposed to downloading it, that Wi-Fi download is really not going to bother anyone, because I mean 100 megabits per second is kind of a maximum limit. It's not bad at all. And for anyone who uses their phone to listen to a lot of music and stuff like that, this is going to be almost the perfect iPhone. One, because of course you've got that decent data connection. Two, because you've got a headphone jack, which most iPhones don't have these days. And three, it's small and can fit into any pocket. So if you're a runner or if you do a lot of exercise, it's not going to be like a Note 4 size in your pocket. It's perfect. If I had to sum up this video in one word, I would say less buggy. Like, that's not one word, but it's definitely less buggy than it used to be. iOS 11 on this phone was pretty bad. I know that on iPhone 10 and stuff, where the aspect ratio was slightly different and everything, that's where it was really bad. But in the 5S, iOS 11 was bad. iOS 12 seems to be a huge improvement on it. But again, it's not going to be groundbreaking in terms of battery life or extra features or speed. It's just going to be less buggy, and that I think is quite important for Apple to acknowledge. Well, that's pretty much the entire video over. I tried to get as many specifications and small details into a smaller video as possible, and yes, the Note 4 video is coming out on Friday. I promise you the A-roll has been recorded and edited. I just need to get some more glamour shots of this thing, and it will be up, so don't you worry about that. I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I recommend you like, dislike, comment, subscribe if you're into it to never miss a video like this one. Also, please check me out on social media, because there are a lot of behind the scenes on there, and actually I do ask and interact with the community a lot more on there than I do on here. Finally, I want to thank my patrons so much. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for your great support. And that's pretty much it from me. Hopefully you learned something from this video. My name's been Ryan Thomas for Feltech, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.